I should have seen it coming the moment she smiled with all teeth and no soul. That kind of smile never means joy. It's camouflage. It was 2 weeks before the big wedding, the one I paid for, mind you. And there she stood, Cassidy, my wife's sister, grinning like she just solved world hunger, while snuffing out what was left of my patience. "You're too pathetic to come to my wedding," she said, brushing past me like lint on her designer dress. Now, pause a second. Imagine being told you're too pathetic to attend an event you funded. Food. I paid for that. Cake. My name's on the invoice. The flowers, the staff tips, the stupid hand-painted welcome sign. All me. Every dollar came from the same bank account she didn't know I had. My quiet little emergency fund, the one I built for rainy days. Turns out, betrayal doesn't come with clouds. It comes wrapped in pastel ribbons and cruelty delivered with a whisper. So yeah, she crossed me off the guest list. Just like that. And the cherry on this beautifully frosted insult? She used my name to get a discount on the venue rental. Called ahead, dropped my name, told them, "Oh yeah, my brother-in-law's got a connection." She had no idea that the guy she said that to, the venue manager, is my brother. Blood brother. Same mother, same busted-up childhood, same code of loyalty stitched into our bones. She didn't recognize him. Guess we don't exactly broadcast family ties in public, and my brother preferred to keep things off radar. He's not the kind to flaunt favors. He listens more than he talks. A trait Cassidy could never understand, because for her, silence is uncomfortable. It's a mirror. And Cassidy hates her reflection unless it's filtered. So when she pranced into the venue for the final walkthrough, laughing about how I was just a soft little cash machine and didn't have the spine to confront anyone, my brother, Ryan, stood 3 feet away arranging chairs. She never noticed the way he paused, or how his jaw clenched for half a second. She never once wondered why the staff started calling her ma'am, with just a hint of ice in their voices. She thought she'd won. Let me tell you something about my brother Ryan. He doesn't explode. He calculates. If you hurt someone he cares about, he won't shout. He won't throw hands. He'll simply wait. And when the time comes, you won't even feel the knife sliding in until you're already bleeding out, wondering why the world suddenly feels so cold. What Cassidy didn't know, what nobody knew, was that Ryan called me that night. Everything she said, he told me. I heard it all. I was sitting on the porch when the call came through. Beer in hand, shirt untucked, watching the last bit of sun drip below the roofline. I didn't ask him to explain. I didn't need to. The silence between us was thick enough to build with. After a pause, he asked, "You still want me to run point at the venue?" "Run it," I said. "But I want full creative control of the lighting and music schedule." He laughed. "You want drama?" "No," I said. "I want truth. And I want it in Dolby surround." See, Cassidy thought I was weak. That I'd sulk, lick my wounds, maybe write a passive-aggressive Facebook post, and move on. But I don't sulk. I document. Every receipt, every email, every favor she begged for under the pretense of family, I logged it. I'm not loud. I'm not flashy. I'm not like her. But I am thorough. And when people like Cassidy think you're too nice, they mistake that for submission. What they don't realize is that nice men build ledgers. They balance them too. Cassidy loved 2 things in life: attention and optics. That's why she planned her wedding like it was a royal summit. Guest list curated like a Vogue spread, floral arches taller than most of the groomsmen, a color palette that required guests to match their ties to moss quartz napkins. The entire event was a stage, and she was the star. She just didn't realize who wrote the script. See, after that phone call with Ryan, the gears started turning. We didn't need to shout, didn't need to confront. That would have given her what she wanted: drama, spotlight. Nah, what I wanted was exposure, not fireworks. Proof, not pity. So I called in a few favors. First, the gift bags. Now, usually these are filled with trinkets no one wants. Cheap candles, monogrammed mints, mini champagne bottles that taste like disappointment. But this time, I had them packed with custom flash drives, discreetly slipped into every bag like a party favor from karma itself. Each flash drive was engraved with a simple word: gratitude. Classy, harmless. But when you plugged it into a laptop, it played a curated 10-minute audio recording. Cassidy's voice. Unedited. Unfiltered. Just her going off to a friend over speakerphone. Honestly, I could make that little doormat pay for my honeymoon if I asked nicely. He thinks I'm joking when I call him pathetic. Poor guy's just thrilled to be included. It's almost cute how much he wants to belong. Like a stray dog that keeps bringing bones and hoping you'll let it on the couch. 10 solid minutes. Audio levels balanced. Echoes cleaned up. I even included timestamped transcripts on screen, because not everyone hears the first time around. Some guests open them at home, sure. But enough opened them there, at the reception, using laptops meant for the DJ's playlist requests or wedding slideshow uploads. One groomsman laughed so hard he snorted champagne through his nose. A bridesmaid, who had told me just hours earlier Cass is so misunderstood, turned beet red and walked out mid-toast. But Cassidy? Cassidy didn't know yet. She was too busy twirling during her father-daughter dance, oblivious to the wildfire quietly spreading across her $50,000 curated crowd. Ryan kept me updated from the control booth. They're starting to talk, he texted, whispers returning. Then a second text, just 3 words. Bride's mom crying. I didn't show up to the wedding, remember? Banned. Too pathetic. So I sat on my porch, same old beer in hand, watching the sun drop behind the trees, my phone lighting up like a Vegas slot machine. The real prize came when Ryan uploaded the same audio clips to a private webpage, a password-protected link I'd prepped. Sent it out to Cassidy's vendors, her wedding planner, her favorite influencer friend who tagged everything like life was a sponsored ad. I didn't even need to leak it publicly. She did it herself, trying to control the narrative. But you can't unring a bell that loud. By the time she found out, it was too late. She texted me in a panic the next day. Cassidy, did you do this? Cassidy, I'm being harassed over some fake audio. Cassidy, you were sick. I just sent her a picture of the gift bag with the flash drive in it and typed 3 words. You're welcome. Sis. The morning after the wedding, Cassidy probably expected to wake up basking in praise. Maybe a few dozen filtered photos to repost with #blessed and #bestdayever. What she didn't expect. Silence. Then whispers. Then calls she couldn't control. By 10 a.m., her PR perfect inbox was flooded. Some polite concerns, some furious relatives, and a few vague threats from people who'd been featured, unknowingly, on that audio recording. Turns out folks don't like being called backup guests or filler bodies with good shoes. But me? I was already 3 steps ahead. See, Cassidy got that discount on the venue by using my name, telling the staff he's family, and he's handling the financials. Which wasn't exactly a lie. I had signed the payment form weeks earlier. She just didn't read the fine print. Let me tell you what that document included, courtesy of my brother Ryan, venue manager and low-key genius with a law minor. Clause 9. In exchange for the sterling family rate, the venue reserves rights to all visual and audio recordings made on-site for promotional or educational use. By accepting this rate, the host waives claims to exclusive distribution rights for material gathered on premises. Simple wording. Easy to overlook. But devastating if you're trying to sweep a scandal under an ivory rug. Especially when material gathered includes surveillance footage and any content accessed using the venue's open access Wi-Fi, which just so happened to include Cassidy's friend's laptop, which streamed the now infamous flash drive contents while connected to our server. Oops. So when Cassidy's new husband, Brent, the poor schmuck, got a message from his boss that read, "Care to explain why your wife called your groomsman a discounted sperm donor?" The marriage started its honeymoon phase with a wrecking ball. Meanwhile, I paid a visit to the venue. Just me and Ryan. No lawyers. No yelling. We sat in his office, sipped decent coffee, and reviewed the event ledger. "You sure you want to do this?" he asked. She said I was too pathetic to be there. I replied. She made it personal. "So yeah, I want her to feel it." He nodded and opened a file on his laptop. Cassidy had digitally signed every document. Dated. Timestamped. All legal. All traceable. We uploaded the event footage to a private link. Just one overhead video. Silent. Timestamped. You could see Cassidy during setup, belittling the staff, mocking relatives, laughing about how easy it is to scam people when they think you're charming. That link? We didn't send it anywhere, yet. We just let it exist. In the hands of a few well-placed people. Because nothing spreads like a scandal you're trying to bury. That same evening, Cassidy called me. Blocked number, of course. "You think you're clever," she hissed, skipping the greeting. "I don't think," I replied. "I know. You just blew up your own family. You blew it up when you turned a guest list into a hit list." Click. No more denials. No more threats. Just silence. And somewhere in that silence, she finally understood. This wasn't petty revenge. This was accountability, something she dodged her entire life. Cassidy had planned the honeymoon like it was a royal exile, 2 weeks in Santorini, first-class flights, cliffside villas, candlelit dinners, drone footage included. A romantic escape from the peasants, she joked once at a bridal shower, not realizing I was within earshot. Yeah, that stuck. The booking? My credit card. Not for lack of funds on her end. No, Cassidy had money. Just none she wanted to spend. She was the kind of person who'd borrow your umbrella, use it for shade, and return it bent with a smile. She convinced Brent, her newly minted husband, that it was some wedding gift from family. What she didn't mention. The charges were run through a business card I used for my freelance projects, which meant that, technically speaking, those flights in that villa were booked under a business travel policy, one I still had control over. Now here's where it gets delicious. Brent's office caught wind of the wedding debacle through that audio leak. Suddenly, his little accounting firm didn't find it amusing that their new partner's wife was a walking PR disaster. So they kindly suggested he stay local and take a short leave until the dust settled. No travel. Which meant one thing. The trip was off. Cassidy, of course, panicked. She called the agency to reschedule. That's when she found out the name on the itinerary wasn't hers. It was mine. She tried to switch the name, can't do that without the cardholder's permission. Tried to refund? Not unless the original cardholder authorizes the transaction. Tried to threaten? Good luck. Our travel agent is married to my cousin, and she hates entitled women more than potholes in winter. And so, on the eve of what was supposed to be her fairy tale honeymoon, Cassidy got a neat little email. Your cancellation refund has been processed in full to the original method of payment. I saw the money land in my account like clockwork. $2,000 for the flights, $9,000 for the villa, another $6,000 in romance add-ons she'd requested, sunset yacht tours, spa treatments, and a private fireworks display. I used the refund to pay off my truck, then booked myself a weekend in the Rockies. Cabin, whiskey, silence. And while I watched the stars through pine silhouettes, Cassidy posted a black and white selfie to her story, captioned, "Sometimes you just need to disconnect." Sure, sweetheart. Nothing says healing like being dumped in your own storm. Meanwhile, Brent? He moved in with a buddy temporarily. He still didn't know the full extent of the gift bag incident. But word gets around. And trust erodes fast when you realize your new wife's face was plastered across half a dozen wedding horror story forums by Sunday night. I didn't gloat. I didn't post. I didn't need to. Because the loudest revenge is the one you never have to announce. Cassidy always thought her charisma was enough to rewrite history. That all it took to smooth things over was a smile, a spin, and maybe a few crocodile tears. But when you burn people for long enough, you run out of fuel, and Cassidy had been torching her way through life since middle school. So, the apology tour began. It started subtle. A few texts to mutual friends. Hey love, crazy week LOL. Let's grab coffee soon. Miss our chats. Crickets. Then a post on social media. Sometimes the people closest to you turn on you when you need them most. That's okay. I know who I am. I'm healing. I'm growing. I'm not perfect. But I'm real. It got 2 likes. One from a fake wellness coach, and the other from her high school hairstylist who probably didn't even read it. What she didn't realize. By now, the audio had done laps. The flash drive was shared in group chats, forwarded to exes, even broken down by some amateur YouTuber doing wedding gossip commentary. One girl called it the Mean Girl Manifesto. Another used it as part of a video essay titled, How to Spot a Narcissist in Your Bridal Party. Cassidy tried to pivot. She rebranded herself overnight into a self-love advocate. Started posting minimalist quotes on white backgrounds. I release all that no longer serves me. Today I forgive myself. Sometimes people attack what they don't understand. No one cared. The people she alienated weren't moved. The people she humiliated weren't inspired. And her new husband, Brent? He wasn't buying the act either. Rumor was, Brent had finally listened to the full audio after his best man sent him the link, along with a very pointed, "You might want to hear what she really thinks of your mom." By the time Cassidy got around to calling me, yeah, she actually tried it. Voicemail. Look, I know you're still mad. And maybe I went too far. But you're acting like you're the victim here. I mean, you sabotaged my wedding, and now everyone's turning against me. You won. Isn't that enough? You won. That was the best part. She thought this was a game. Like we'd just been playing cards and I got the better hand. She still didn't understand. This wasn't about revenge. It was about balance. And if she thought I was done? She hadn't seen the guest list for her next little influencer brunch, one that she was trying to host at the same venue. Ryan sent me the request form. She used her new married name this time. Same email, same number, same attitude. Should we confirm the booking? He asked. Of course, I said. Just make sure the projector works this time. He grinned. Cassidy couldn't help herself. Even in the ashes of her public implosion, she still thought she could rise like some kind of discount phoenix. She booked the brunch under her married name, Cassidy Dunlow, like slapping a new label on spoiled meat would change the taste. Venue, the same one. Guest list, filtered, safe. Agenda, image rehab. The idea? A curated healing circle with influencer types, yoga instructors, and a few desperate wannabe life coaches. The plan was simple. Stand up, give a speech, cry a little, say something vague about trauma and growth, post a few staged candidates. Boom, redemption. She even had a photographer, a drone, and little canvas tote bags with her new initials. What she didn't have? Control. Because Cassidy didn't know that Ryan and I had been watching her prep this circus from day one. The second that reservation came in, we flagged it, prepped the audio, hooked up the A/V system ourselves. So when Cassidy stood in front of her carefully arranged guests, all sipping pastel smoothies and pretending to believe in crystal energy, and launched into her speech, everything started off perfectly. I'm not the woman I was a month ago, she said, hands clutched like a bad politician. I've been humbled, betrayed, judged, but I've also grown. And I just want to say how grateful I am for this safe space. Click. The projector lit up. Behind her, the screen flickered. Then it rolled into the same audio from the gift bags. The one that started with her laughing, then calling her guests, insecure freeloaders who'd come to anything if there was wine and a chance to post selfies. The silence in the room turned acidic. Cassidy froze. The audio rolled on. Her voice filled the space. Raw. Brutal. Her words from weeks ago, scorched into everyone's ears. I'm telling you, the only thing worse than poor people at weddings is poor people who think they're part of the story. She spun around like she'd been slapped. The screen behind her paused. A message flashed in bold serif letters. Redemption doesn't erase receipts. She stumbled off the stage, muttering something about technical issues. Someone stood up. Then another. Then chairs started scraping the floor. The brunch broke apart like a ship splitting on the rocks. Ryan texted me a single word. Showtime. Later that day, Cassidy went dark on social media. No final post. No story. Not even a passive-aggressive quote. And Brent? He quietly filed for an annulment. Apparently, the honeymoon refund hadn't sat right. Nor did the photos a friend showed him of Cassidy rehearsing that brunch speech with the same PR coach who once helped a reality TV star apologize for shoplifting sunglasses from an airport kiosk. By sundown, Cassidy's entire redemption arc had collapsed under the weight of her own lies. And I went out for ribs with Ryan. Watched the sunset. Didn't say much. Didn't need to. Sometimes you don't have to burn someone to the ground. You just have to let them walk into the fire they lit for you. She called it an estate sale. Let that word sink in. Estate. Like she was some fallen duchess in a Netflix period drama, not a disgraced socialite living in a leased townhouse with empty champagne bottles and frozen credit lines. But Cassidy needed cash. And more importantly, she needed control. The divorce wasn't finalized yet, but Brent had already changed the locks on his condo and ghosted their couple's therapist. Half the brunch crowd had unfollowed her. The other half were sharing memes made out of her leaked quotes. So the sale. Furniture, handbags, and used wedding decor, designer shoes, all of it tagged with aggressive optimism. $1, 200 OBO, custom wrought iron mirror, perfect condition. She even tried to sell the wedding arch. The same arch she posed under with fake tears and filtered lighting, right before she started telling everyone I was too unstable to attend. Guess who showed up to the sale? Not me. I don't do encores. But Ryan went. Quietly. Baseball cap, sunglasses, faded t-shirt, just another body in the browsing crowd. He wasn't there to buy. He was there to listen. Turns out, Cassidy hadn't changed her tune. She told anyone who would listen that she was a victim of coordinated character assassination and refused to be silenced by jealous exes and emotionally stunted in-laws. Her voice carried across the lawn like gospel to no one. Some people came just to see the wreck. Others to haggle. But a few, a precious few, came with purpose. Like the woman who held up a crystal vase and asked, loud enough for the whole yard to hear, Is this the one you threw at Brent when he found the burner phone? Cassidy's smile cracked like old paint. She didn't answer. Then came the influencer, a former friend she'd blocked weeks earlier, who approached the table with the wedding favors. Are these the famous flash drives? No. Cassidy snapped. They're USB diffusers. You sure? I could swear they looked just like the ones that called your maid of honor a washed-up has-been with Instagram filler. Cassidy turned red, then pale, then stone cold. She packed up early that day, claimed she had a migraine, but everyone knew the real reason. It wasn't just the stuff she was selling that was worthless. It was her credibility. Because once the veil drops, once people see you, it's near impossible to slip it back on. Cassidy had built her persona like a Pinterest board, curated, color-coded, inspirational in that fake deep way. But now, people saw the edits, the rot under the polish, the ugly behind the brand. And once you go viral for all the wrong reasons, there's no coming back without humility. Cassidy didn't have that. She had entitlement, and maybe a few unsold handbags. Cassidy always loved surprises, as long as she controlled them. Brent's impromptu proposal in Tulum? Perfect, because she'd orchestrated the entire trip. Birthday surprise parties? She pre-approved the guest list and picked out her own cake. But this delivery? This one she didn't see coming. No note, no branding, just a sleek matte black box on her front porch. Heavy, deliberate, and uninvited. She opened it cautiously. I imagine her carefully peeling back the tape like it might bite. Inside, layers of tissue paper, and then a scrapbook, one she'd never seen. But every page bled familiarity. Photos, screenshots, notes. Her words, her actions, her lies. Meticulously cataloged, annotated, time-stamped. A reverse fairy tale. It started with the rehearsal dinner, her rant about the crusty wine list and the peasant menu. Then the bridal suite audio. Then texts she thought she deleted. A printout of her using my name to fake vendor discounts. Even a photo of her accidentally bumping my name off the seating chart with a red marker. At the very end, on the last page, a quote, her own, scrawled across the top in her favorite calligraphy font, one she'd used for wedding invites. People are only as useful as their silence. Beneath it, in plain courier type. Mine just ended. She called Ryan first. Mistake. Did you send this? She demanded. Send what? His voice was calm. Dangerous. The receipts. A pause. You mean the truth? She hung up. She called me next. I didn't pick up. Because Cassidy didn't want an apology or a conversation. She wanted control. But control requires leverage, and I'd stripped her of every last ounce. That package? It wasn't revenge. It was a ledger. A closing of books. A final audit. And you know what happened next? She posted a photo of the scrapbook to her story. Black and white, moody lighting, captioned, sometimes the people you trust most are the ones who hurt you deepest. And just like that, she made it about herself again. Victimhood with a filter. Misery as performance. But even that fell flat. Comments were limited. Likes barely broke 100. Because when you spend your life stepping on people to feel taller, you don't get sympathy when the ladder breaks. You get silence. You get isolation. And sometimes, you get a box on your porch reminding you exactly what you've become. It wasn't technically an auction. Cassidy called it a curated private sale. Which is rich, considering the last time she curated anything. It was her own downfall, complete with drone footage and a side of public humiliation. But this wasn't about furniture or handbags anymore. This was about narrative. She sent out invitations, digital ones, of course, full of buzzwords like reclaim, restore, reimagine. A thinly veiled attempt to salvage her reputation by selling the illusion of starting over. The venue? Some boutique co-op in the arts district. Catered by a gluten-free, ethically sourced something or other. Champagne that tasted like regret. All for what? A carefully staged evening where Cassidy stood in front of select guests, Reed, the few who hadn't ghosted her, and tried to sell the Cassidy Redemption Collection, literal artifacts of her fall. Repurposed. Her wedding shoes, symbol of transformation. Her engagement dress, proof that love evolves. A print of her viral quote, sometimes people attack what they don't understand, framed like it belonged in a gallery. She even tried to auction off the scrapbook I sent her. Called it Anonymous Truth, and claimed it was a mixed media performance piece on perception. You can't make this stuff up. She wanted $3,000 for it. You know what the opening bid was? $12. From a woman who thought it was a charity fundraiser. And here's the kicker, the only items that actually sold were things Cassidy never meant to highlight. The candle holders, a chair, a table runner. Not her story, not her statement, not her rebirth. Those things? People left in the donation bin on the way out. A silent, passive protest. A refusal to pay for pretense. Ryan was there too, anonymous in the crowd, same as before. Said Cassidy looked like she was performing for ghosts, trying to speak into a void that used to echo with applause but now barely hummed. When the night ended, Cassidy packed up what remained. Alone. No press write-up. No viral comeback. Just a few sympathy texts from fringe friends and a local blogger who used the phrase tragically tone-deaf. The next day, she tried to frame it as a win. Thank you to everyone who came to my first pop-up. Healing isn't linear, and sometimes art comes from ashes. Stay tuned. No one was staying tuned, because Cassidy had finally hit the part of her story no one warns you about. Irrelevance. Not hated, not famous, just ignored. And for someone like her, that's the harshest verdict of all. Cassidy didn't know the envelope was from me. No return address. Heavy cardstock. Embossed edges. A deep navy blue, the exact color she once told a caterer was emotionally inappropriate for spring events. Inside, a simple invite. No flowery text. No hashtags. Just 5 words. Dinner. 7 p.m. Dress honest. That was it. Ryan hand-delivered it. Didn't say a word. Just handed it over while she stood frozen in her doorway in an oversized hoodie and yesterday's lashes. I set the location for a small restaurant. One she never would have chosen. No chandeliers. No Instagram walls. Just hardwood floors, cast iron tables, and a staff that cared more about good food than curated lighting. And yet she came. Because of course she did. Cassidy never walks away from something she doesn't understand. She has to control it. Shape it. Reframe it. But that night, she walked into a room she didn't own. There were only 4 seats at the table. Me, Ryan, Brent, and her. Yep, Brent. Freshly annulled. Newly silent. He didn't say much when she arrived. Just gave her a glance that lasted 2 seconds too long. The kind of look that says, you don't get to rewrite me anymore. She sat, straightened her dress, cleared her throat. Is this some kind of intervention? No, I said, sipping water. This is an RSVP. To what? The end. She blinked. You're being dramatic. But no one laughed. I pulled out a folder. Slim. Neat. Clinical. Inside was every invoice, every charge, every vendor contact from the wedding. From the flowers to the photographer, every dollar she'd forgotten, I fronted. There was even a receipt for the dress she never thanked me for, the one she claimed was a gift from a bridesmaid she no longer speaks to. I slid it across the table. I'm not here for reimbursement, I said. I'm here for the record. Ryan added, and to make sure you can't claim you didn't know. Brent reached into his coat and placed his own folder down. Divorce finalized. Annulled. Signed. Sealed. But that wasn't the bomb. It was the page underneath. A notarized statement. Brent waiving all rights to confidentiality regarding Cassidy's behavior during their marriage, specifically, her financial manipulation, her recorded comments, and the use of his professional network to pitch herself as a brand. He wasn't suing, but he wasn't staying silent, either. You tried to make me your alibi, he said, voice level. Now I'm just a witness. Cassidy said nothing. And that silence? That was the real ending. Not rage. Not tears. Just the slow, humiliating realization that everyone she tried to stage manage had finally left the performance. And there was no audience left to clap. She didn't finish her drink. She left the RSVP on the table. Didn't say goodbye. We watched her walk out, and this time, we didn't follow. Because sometimes the most brutal justice is this. No more conflict. No more chance to explain. Just the door closing behind you, quietly. It started with a call from my Aunt Marion. She's one of those women built from sharp instincts and firm hands. The kind who can gut a fish, fold hospital corners, and shut down a rumor with one look. She doesn't speak unless it matters. So when her name popped up on my phone 3 weeks after the last RSVP, I knew it wasn't casual. She's been sniffing around the foundation, Marion said without pleasantries. Cassidy? Who else wears war crimes and perfume? Turns out Cassidy had shown up to the annual planning committee for the Sterling Memorial Scholarship, the very program my grandfather founded decades ago to support underprivileged students. She brought iced coffees. Said she was inspired to give back. Claimed she and I had shared values. Even offered to volunteer for the board. Said she wanted to honor the family name. She said my name like it was hers to barter. What she didn't know, my grandfather's will have been updated the year before he passed. Quietly. Thoroughly. And I was executor. Cassidy wasn't family. Not on paper. Not in blood. And not in spirit. So I called a meeting. Ryan came. Marion too. And Mr. Levy, our grandfather's lawyer for 40 years. We didn't warn Cassidy. Just sent a polite message. In light of your recent interest in the foundation, we'd love to have you present for our review session. 3 p.m. sharp. Attire. Respectful. She showed up in white. Not business white. Bridal white. Like she still believed image could overwrite consequence. She smiled that old media-ready grin and strutted in like she was collecting her crown. What she got instead? A copy of the will. A page bookmarked and highlighted in our grandfather's handwriting. The sterling legacy belongs to those who protect it with action, not ego. Ethan, Ryan, build it wisely. Everyone else, keep your hands off. Below that, a list of names. Cassidy's wasn't there. She scanned the page. Once. Twice. Her smile cracked, dried, and dropped. I just wanted to help, she said, all wounded silk. You wanted a platform, Ryan replied. Not a purpose. Then I opened my own folder, a collection of emails, screenshots, and messages from people she'd contacted recently. Socialites, journalists, former wedding vendors. Cassidy had been quietly shopping around her version of the story. A book deal. A podcast concept. Even a pitch for a docu-series. Bride, broken. She was trying to sell the wreckage. I'm not stopping you, I said, calm as stone. Sell your story. But just know, every producer who calls me gets the unedited footage. Every publisher? They'll see the receipts. And every donation you try to link to our name? I looked her in the eye. I'll burn it to the ground first. She didn't argue. She didn't cry. She just stood up, nodded like a chess player conceding a checkmate, and left without touching the lemon water. That was the last time I saw her face in person. Because from that moment on, she was a ghost with a spotlight addiction, and no one left to shine it. Cassidy always believed in second drafts, as long as she was holding the pen. And after her crash and burn, after the brunch debacle, the RSVP, the inheritance meeting, she decided it was time for her redemption arc. But Cassidy never understood something simple. You can't edit your way out of who you are. Still, she tried. First came the rebrand. She deleted her old accounts. Reappeared under a different handle. At Cass Restored. Minimalist bio. A vague quote about storms making trees grow deeper roots. Her grid? Empty, except for one black and white photo of her, looking away from the camera, clutching a scarf like it owed her rent. Then came the podcast trailer. Just her voice. Softer now. Feigned humility. People think they know me. They don't. I was villainized, reduced, misunderstood. This is my space now. This is my story. She called the show. After the Aisle. Catchy. Manipulative. Classic Cassidy. Except this time, the audience wasn't buying it. The trailer got a few hundred plays. Most were hate listens. The comments were brutal. Some posted the original wedding audio under her teaser video with timestamps. Others pasted quotes from her leaked scrapbook next to her inspirational captions. Even worse, her exes started speaking up. Not just Brent. Old boyfriends. College acquaintances. Even 2 former bridesmaids she'd ghosted for gaining weight before her engagement party. They didn't post hate. They posted facts. Screenshots. Texts. Emails. Stories of manipulation dressed as grace. Years of Cassidy using people like seasonal accessories. Suddenly, After the Aisle started trending, but not how she hoped. People called it a live-action case study in narcissism. Clips were used in YouTube videos titled Gaslight Diaries, The Cassidy Files. One comment summed it up best. She's not a phoenix. She's just the ash that couldn't take a hint. She released one episode. Just one. A 23-minute ramble about betrayal, toxic masculinity, and how some people just fear powerful women. She cried halfway through. Not a single apology. Not one acknowledgement of what she actually did. No self-awareness. Just smoke and mirrors. After a week of silence, the podcast disappeared. Deleted. Gone. But the internet? It never forgets. Someone reposted the whole episode on a satire channel titled Cassidy Uncut, The Real Housewife of Collapse. Within 48 hours, it had more views than her wedding video ever did. It came from a digital publisher. One of those content mills that churn out think pieces like soap bubbles, flashy, weightless, forgettable by dinner. The editor reached out to Cassidy personally. Said they wanted to hear her side. Said it was time to explore the human behind the headlines. Said they believed in redemption stories. And Cassidy? Cassidy leapt. Finally, someone who didn't quote her back to herself. Someone who hadn't played her audio clips like a mixtape of self-destruction. The deal was simple, a 3-part exclusive feature. Written in her voice. Her words. Her image. All she had to do? Sign. But Cassidy never reads the fine print. She didn't notice the disclaimer clause in Section 9.4. Didn't clock the part about editorial contextual support. Didn't know what it meant when the contract said, rights to incorporate corroborated external testimony for clarity and accuracy. She just signed. The first part of the feature dropped 2 weeks later. The title? Confessions of a Pretty Wreck. One Bride's Fall from Grace. Cassidy expected sympathy. What she got? Interwoven fact checks. Every paragraph of her truth was matched with real receipts, links, screenshots, recordings. The article became a public autopsy. Her version of events side by side with the actual quotes, the real damage, the timeline she tried to bend. Her emotional healing journey about being left out of her own family's legacy, countered with my grandfather's will. Her narrative about a manipulative ex who weaponized the wedding for revenge, refuted with Brent's legal statement and annotated screenshots of her chats with vendors, mocking him for being too beta to notice. And at the bottom of each page, a bold disclaimer. The subject of this piece was offered a chance to review the full draft prior to publication. She approved all content. Cassidy tried to sue. Didn't work. She'd signed the clause. Worse? She'd waived her right to pre-publication edit authority in exchange for authentic voice amplification. She wanted her voice amplified. She didn't realize the mic was hot. She went quiet after that. No posts. No podcast. No brunch invites. People stopped talking about her, not because they forgave her, but because they were finally done listening. No one came to her defense. Not even the vultures. Because even vultures know when a carcass is picked clean. The new place wasn't big. Wasn't fancy. Just quiet. Brick walls, heavy wood floors, a porch that caught the sun around 4 p.m. like it owed me something. A fixer-upper with no baggage in the walls. My kind of clean slate. I'd invited a few people for the housewarming. Close ones. Real ones. Ryan showed up with a 6-pack and a crooked grin. Brent brought a bottle of bourbon and a box labeled, Things I Should Have Burned. Inside? Photos. Notes. One of Cassidy's old journals she'd asked him to hold on to, like even her trauma had to be outsourced. We laughed. We grilled. We talked about anything but her. That was the point. The point was moving forward, not rewinding. But life doesn't always care about your pace. At 8:13 p.m., there was a knock on my door. Soft. Hesitant. I opened it. And there she was. Cassidy. No makeup. Hoodie. Hair like it had finally stopped obeying her. For a moment, I thought she might have shrunk. Not in size, in presence. She used to fill a room like perfume. Now she stood on the porch like a lost flyer someone taped to a pole and forgot. Nice place, she said, as darting past me. Cozy. I didn't invite her in. You here for closure or confession? She smiled, brittle. Neither. I don't know. I guess I wanted to see what it looked like. Well, what looked like? Your life. After me. That hit harder than I expected. I studied her. Not cruelly. Just clinically. Like watching the storm that tore your roof off come back as a drizzle. You thought I'd be worse off. She didn't answer. You thought you were the anchor. Turns out you were the hole in the hull. Still, she didn't flinch. I wasn't always a monster, she whispered. No, I said. But you rehearsed the role until the script stuck. A long pause. Do you hate me? She asked. That question. That old, selfish question. Do you hate me? Not, did I hurt you? Not, can I fix what I broke? Just me. Still her favorite subject. I stepped forward just enough to make her take a step back. I don't think about you enough to hate you. Then I shut the door. Inside, Ryan handed me a fresh beer. Brent nodded once, the kind of silent solidarity that comes from crawling out of the same wreckage. And just like that, the porch was quiet again.